Welcome to the It's in Queens podcast, the only podcast that focuses on the borough of Queens. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and this podcast is brought to you each week by the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. They present Queens as a destination complete with something for everyone who lives here, works here, or wants to visit from near or far. Business Improvement Districts, or BIDs, play an essential role in shaping the vitality and economic success of our neighborhoods. Across the city, and especially in Queens, BIDs help communities thrive by offering essential services like sanitation, public safety, and marketing, while advocating for long-term improvements to the infrastructure and overall appeal of the area. From bustling commercial corridors to quieter residential streets, BIDs ensure that neighborhoods stay clean, safe, and inviting for both residents and visitors. Their work creates vibrant, welcoming environments that support local businesses, foster community pride, and attract new opportunities. Queens is known for its rich diversity and patchwork of distinct communities, and these communities benefit immensely from the presence of BIDs. They work closely with business owners, residents, and local government to provide the services and improvements that reflect the needs of each area. In a borough as large and varied as Queens, BIDs are vital in ensuring that neighborhoods retain their character while evolving to meet modern demands. In particular, the Long Island City Business Improvement District stands out as a model of how BIDs can transform a neighborhood. Long Island City has evolved into one of the most dynamic communities, not just in Queens, but in our entire city. It's a mixed-use area combining industrial, commercial, residential, and cultural sectors in a way that fosters growth and innovation. This week, I'm thrilled to be joined by Laura Rothrock, the president of the Long Island City Partnership and executive director of the LIC BID. Laura brings nearly 2 decades of experience in economic development with a deep understanding of the role that BIDs play in our city's economic landscape, and she is no stranger to the complexities of mixed-use districts like Long Island City. Her background includes serving as the executive director of the BID program at the New York City Department of Small Business Services, where she oversaw nearly 70 BIDs citywide. And in this role, Laura has been leading the Long Island City area into its next chapter of growth, ensuring it remains one of the most dynamic and rapidly evolving communities in our city and our country. Laura Rothrock, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
You've had an impressive career in economic development, particularly working with BIDs. Can you tell us what drew you to the Long Island City Partnership?
Sure. I'm kind of a BID expert, which is a niche job to have, but I started my career in New York City working for Department of Small Business Services, and I was the executive director of the BID program. So business improvement districts, for those people who aren't familiar, there's now 76 BIDs throughout the 5 boroughs. And so I've worked on the government side. I've worked as a consultant to help form and expand BIDs. And so it was a natural next step for me to work for a BID. And I've been working with the Long Island City Partnership since I started working for the city back in 2008. So I've seen the evolution of the organization and of the BID over the past, 16 years. So that's been really exciting.
And you're someone who's worked with a number of neighborhoods across the city through that work. What makes Long Island City so unique, and what are some of the opportunities you see for the district?
Long Island City is most unique because we are the most mixed-use neighborhood in the city. And by that, I mean not just retail, commercial, office, residential, because we do have a very active industrial business zone. So, having an IBZ within Long Island City creates a lot of opportunities and challenges that other mixed-use commercial districts don't have. And the other attribute that makes Long Island City so unique is that we're the fastest growing neighborhood, both by jobs and by population. And you probably have seen that with the evolving skyline. That's the number one comment that people make to me is, the neighborhood has changed so much over the years.
You mentioned the skyline. I think about the fact I've lived here now in Queens for about 20 years and in Manhattan before. And it was what was then called the Citibank building that, was the defining skyscraper in the area. But you're right, it has changed so dramatically, particularly the residential growth.
Yeah, and we're really happy that there has been so much growth in residential because not only does it bring foot traffic, but also, post-COVID environment that we're living in, both during COVID and after COVID, most neighborhoods in New York City saw a decrease in foot traffic, but foot traffic actually increased during COVID and post-COVID in Long Island City, and that's because there are so many residents here. So we were happy that we didn't have to deal with the same sort of challenges as Midtown or Lower Manhattan had to during COVID and in the years coming out of COVID.
So the LIC partnership oversees both the LIC Business Improvement District and the LIC Industrial Business Zone, which you touched on a short while ago. How do these entities work together to support the community's growth?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because um, both of these entities are actually merging right now. So we're kind of at a pivotal point. So although they share similar goals in assisting businesses, the bid has always focused on Vernon Boulevard, Jackson Avenue, Queens Plaza, 44th Drive. So more retail businesses and some of the mixed use towers and residential towers. The industrial business zone was really separate from the bid and dealing with businesses like Silver Cup Studios or a number, and that's an industry that has grown too. And dealing with life science and a lot of industrial manufacturing businesses. But as the nature of those businesses started to change as well, and more people were moving into the IBZ, we saw more foot traffic and more of a need for bid services in the IBZ. So this is like breaking news. Just last week, the city council approved our bid expansion, which is going to include portions of the IBZ. And so starting in January 2025, our bid will expand and include the IBZ. So even though we have separate staff that works on specifically IBZ issues and staff that works on, bid issues, they'll all sort of come together more holistically.
Every bid represents a different neighborhood, and so many of our neighborhoods are just diverse. They have different needs. And I'd love for you to talk a little about the role that the partnership plays in ensuring balanced development, but also some of your key priorities for the district.
Yeah. So, with all the development, of course, comes a lot of quality of life issues, like more foot traffic brings more garbage, more, instances of graffiti, and more need for infrastructure improvements, like transportation improvements. Even just the walkability of Long Island City can be really difficult and sometimes dangerous, because, they're take Queens Plaza, for example, there's 9 lanes of traffic and there's people that are trying to cross those 9 lanes of traffic and a bike lane in the middle. So the partnership and the bid, we look holistically at improving the community and advocating for better transportation infrastructure. And, the bid can provide services like sanitation services, like horticulture improvements, holiday lighting, better lighting in the district, more trash cans. And that's something that is really evolving as the neighborhood evolves. So we try to make sure that even though we can't solve every infrastructure problem, because unfortunately we can't, dig under the ground and and upgrade all of the infrastructure, we can, work with the city and advocate for some of the needs. And we are doing that right now as Long Island City is going through a potential rezoning, the One LIC neighborhood plan, and we just had our scoping hearing. And so the partnership acts as a voice for the business community, the arts community, the nonprofits, and we work with, other institutions and our board members to come up with policy asks and also like hard infrastructure asks from the city.
And we're talking a lot about development. So I definitely want to hear from you about the upcoming LIC Summit, which the partnership has held for a number of years now. Talk a little about why this is a significant event. Give us a preview of what anyone who's going to attend can expect to hear and experience.
Yes, the LIC Summit is taking place on October 8th at the Museum of Moving Image. And we usually have about 300 to 400 attendees. We have a keynote panel that is going to include Mary Joshi, who's the Deputy Mayor for Operations, as well as the Real Estate Board of New York, which will be really interesting. We have Council Member Julie Wong participating. And we have a panel that's going to be discussing a number of the plans, like the One LIC neighborhood plan that I mentioned. And then we also have a real estate panel that's going to focus on residential real estate and the changing nature of Long Island City. So it's a really interesting full day event. And it's a great networking opportunity as well. And you can find more information on our website about tickets and sponsorship opportunities.
And I'm going to have you give that website in just a few moments. But before we get to that, as someone with deep experience working with bids, what are some of the most important factors for one to succeed in enhancing a neighborhood's vibrancy?
Well, the biggest thing that we always say is clean and safe in the bid community, because if a neighborhood is not clean or not safe, then people aren't going to want to locate there. Businesses aren't going to want to open up. Residents aren't going to want to move to a neighborhood there. So that can both mean, real safety and also the perception of safety. And the perception of safety a lot of times has to do with proper lighting, or if a neighborhood is clean, if there are instances of graffiti. And so if you don't have, that's sort of like the baseline, is making a neighborhood clean and safe. And then after that, there's more fun things that you could do, like public art and horticulture. But I think what's really key is that talking to businesses, talking to stakeholders, to residents, and seeing what they want to see in the community. We do a ton of that work as well, with neighborhood surveys, and also all of our engagement with businesses and roundtables, and at larger events like the summit, the upcoming summit. So every neighborhood is different throughout New York City, but like I said, clean and safe is really our mantra as a bid.
And I also understand you had a recent infusion of funds from the state. Can you talk a little about that?
Sure. So Long Island City was just the recipient of $10 million that we were awarded from the state, from Governor Hochul, and the Department of State. And so there was, when we first received the money, we were all excited, but the money does not go to the partnership as much as I would love $10 million. The money goes to capital improvements for the community. And so a committee was set up, which I'm on the committee, that's evaluating projects now and deciding where that money is going to go. The public can also get involved and ask questions about the projects. There is a public meeting coming up on September 24th, and you can find more information on our website and in our newsletter, where you can find information about everything that's going on in Long Island City. So that's very exciting for us, to see some of this money actually, enhance the community. And it really is, the DRI has really been, it's been a response to a lot of what the community needs are, which is great to see.
And before I let you go, please let our It's in Queens listeners know where they can go for more information about the partnership and also to learn more about the summit.
Sure. To learn more about the partnership and the LIC bid expansion, visit licqns.com. And to learn more information about the summit and how to get tickets, visit licsummit.nyc.
Laura Rothrock, I want to thank you so much for appearing here on the It's in Queens podcast.
Thanks, Jeff.
The summit promises to be another insightful event on October 8th at the Museum of the Moving Image. And this year's panels include a keynote, Opportunities for Growth, Long Island City's Studies and Plans, and Going Up, LIC Residential Real Estate Update. You can learn more at licsummit.nyc. If you're looking for something else to do this month or next, we have you covered. That is where Rob Mackay comes in. He's with the Queens Tourism Council and the Queens Economic Development Corporation, or QEDC, and each and every week he brings us details on some of the more dynamic events that are happening in Queens. Here's this week's report.
Hi, Jeff. Well, this week is just like other weeks in that I had a really hard time choosing only one event to highlight. But this week is a bit different from all the others because of the Poseidon Parade. Pretty much doesn't get any better than this, Jeff. It's basically Rockaway's answer to the Mermaid Parade in Coney Island. A bit more friendly, a bit less hip, much less commercial. Marchers put on costumes, in general, crazy, outlandish, homemade costumes, and gather at Beach 105th Street in the Boardwalk on Saturday, September 21st at 1 p.m. And then they proceed towards 95th Street at their own speeds. I've been before, and it's a blast. Let's just say that the Poseidon Parade attracts a healthy number of sailors and other glittery sea creatures. But some participants go with characters from Greek mythology, and you actually see a fair amount of floats. Human-propelled floats, Jeff. This isn't the Mermaid Parade. Anyway, the participants strut their risque stuff down the boardwalk for fun, self-expression, glory, and the chance to win an award from a panel of judges. Plus, the after party is pretty kick butt, I must admit. There's more information on It's in Queens. Jeff, I can't wait to see your costume. Thanks.
Why, thank you, Rob. That is just a few of the things that are going on in our borough. The place to go to discover and explore everything else that's on the horizon is, well, very easy to remember. It's at the It's in Queens website, and that website address is itsinqueens.com. And if you're interested in more business news and how to help your business or friends or family members, well, then head right over to the QEDC's website at queensny.org. And when you're there, or when you visit the itsinqueens.com website, sign up for the newsletter. You'll get notified about opportunities right in your inbox. And by the way, when you visit any place in Queens, including when you visit the LIC Summit, snap some photos and share them with us. And make sure to use the hashtag #It'sInQueens when you post on Instagram or X, because your photo could become our photo of the week. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and that's it for this week's It's in Queens podcast.